Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hey there.
Today, we're diving deep into a really fascinating conversation you shared with us. It explores the life and, honestly, the powerful insights of activist, writer, speaker Jamia Wilson.
Yeah, the source material we're digging into is this rich interview where Jamia really traces her whole journey, from her roots in the U.S., Saudi Arabia,
Right.
all the way to becoming this, celebrated author and a leading voice on women's rights.
And our mission here, it's basically to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from her story. Like, what really shaped her? How did she learn to navigate such a complex world? What's the power behind her work, her writing?
And yeah, what she's learned about living a truly meaningful life.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So we start in her early years, Columbia, South Carolina. And right away, it's clear that social consciousness, this deep understanding of civil rights activism, it was just woven into her family fabric, part of her DNA almost.
Absolutely. She talks so much about that strong family history and, the profound influence of her parents.
Yeah.
Especially her mother.
Yeah.
She uses this phrase, kind elegance, to describe her, which is lovely.
Yeah.
But also fierce, visionary, strategic.
Wow, what a combination. Her mother was a civil rights activist, actively walking the talk.
Right.
And Jamia saw that leadership firsthand. It clearly had a massive impact. And this core message her mother gave her, always do you.
Yeah, do you.
Even if it means disagreeing with authority figures, parents, teachers, whoever. That's powerful stuff for a kid to hear.
It really is. And Jamia shares these very poignant recent reflections, too, about the passing of elders in her family. Her mother just last year.
Oh, wow.
Her grandmother a few years before that. And this experience, you can tell, it's prompting these deep thoughts on transitions, on aging, and sort of her changing place in the family lineage as she sees that torch passing.
That really hits home, doesn't it? That moment when you realize, oh, I'm reaching the age my elders were when I knew them.
Exactly.
What a profound point of reflection for her. And then there's this huge formative part of her early life, the move, around age 5 or 6, to Saudi Arabia.
Right. What started as just a sabbatical for her father turned into a whole decade.
Yeah.
It truly shapes her youth. She calls it this incredible adventure.
An adventure, sure, but one that, it came with some significant challenges, especially for her mother, right?
Oh, definitely. As a feminist, her mom wasn't just going to quietly accept the status quo there.
No way.
She demanded a contract equal to her husband's.
Oh.
She fought for rights that Saudi women at the time faced restrictions on, like the ability to travel freely, move without guardianship.
That's huge.
And she even refused to teach male students behind a barrier, which was apparently the initial setup.
Wow. So she was pushing back on those cultural norms while still, as Jamia notes, trying to be respectful, wanting to learn the culture, the language.
Exactly. It's such a delicate line to walk, isn't it? Maintaining your core values while genuinely engaging with a completely different context.
And navigating that exact line seems to be where Jamia's own feminist consciousness really began to take shape from her experiences there in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, she was observing the lives of women, encountering things like men-only spaces.
And this is where you see that connection back to her family's history just crystallized.
Totally.
She talks about questioning those men-only spaces, asking her dad, why are you standing for this? Especially when her parents had fought such similar dynamics, separate water fountains, segregated bathrooms back in the South during the civil rights era.
Such a direct parallel.
She has this really striking memory being a young woman riding in the back of the bus there, her dad in the front, and just thinking, wow, my parents, my family, you all have lived this twice.
That's incredibly resonant. And then there was this shift for her personally, right? As she got older, looked less like a child, more like a woman. She observed firsthand that the dynamics often got worse for women.
How so?
Well, she shares this vivid memory of customs officials commenting on her modesty right in front of her father, basically discussing her like she wasn't even there.
Oh, that must have been so jarring. And it sounds like this is precisely where she started to grasp the idea of nuance.
Exactly. That's the word she uses. She points out that, yes, there were clear human rights challenges, obviously.
Right.
But there were also surprising policies, things like laws against street harassment or even charity being sort of embedded in the banking system.
Interesting.
Her point is that complexity isn't unique to Saudi Arabia. It exists right here in the U.S. too. And for her, understanding why nuance exists, that's key to navigating the world. But she's very clear. Understanding nuance is not the same as overlooking or excusing abuses.
That's a crucial distinction, a really important one. And this idea of complexity, it's illustrated so well by that story of her teacher there.
Oh, yes. Years later, this teacher she really trusted and connected with revealed something huge.
What was it?
He told her he was a New York Jew who had to hide his religion on his official documents because of the political climate at the time.
Wow. What a revelation.
Yeah. And she says it helped her understand so much about him, about their connection, their shared perspectives on spirituality, on social movements. She draws this direct line back to her mother's close relationships with Jewish allies during the civil rights movement in the South.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And while she felt this deep sadness that he had to hide such a fundamental part of himself,
Of course.
she also felt immense joy later, seeing him finally able to express his full identity openly.
That's powerful. It really underscores her broader point, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Right.
Our human tendency, maybe, is to seek those simple binary answers, yes or no, good or bad, because it feels easier, maybe safer.
Right, less messy.
But Jamie argues that learning to live in complexity, to actually embrace nuance, is a necessity today. It's a crucial skill. And again, she stresses, this doesn't mean you have to surrender your core convictions. Not at all.
That powerful understanding of complexity she gained in Saudi Arabia, it must have served her really well when she returned to the U.S. for high school. She went to St. Timothy's.
Yep, St. Timothy's, an all-girls boarding school in Maryland. And it had strong historical roots in feminism itself.
Interesting.
She talks about the academic rigor there, for sure, but also how being in that small community taught her vital lessons about relationships, collaboration, spirit, and, importantly, how to stand on her own, because she was one of the few students with her particular background.
And there's that great anecdote about the other student.
Oh, yeah. The one who initially judged her.
Yeah.
Assumed she'd be too privileged or something coming from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, exactly.
But that student eventually came around,
Yeah.
came to respect Jamie's authenticity, even called her truly black. And Jamie realized from things like that that simply being herself is, a good thing some places, but sometimes it rubs people a whole lot of the wrong ways.
Yeah.
But she learned that's exactly how she needs to be. Authenticity over everything.
And high school seems to be where her activism really became much more, well, active. Enlivened, as she put it.
Definitely. She joined the Amnesty International Club. She co-headed the Black Student Union, the BSU.
Okay.
And she talks, pretty frankly, about the dynamics around just the name BSU, about white students wanting to join. It really highlights how, even as teenagers, they were grappling with these incredibly complex ideas.
Yeah.
Ideas that, frankly, many adults are still trying to figure out.
Totally. Still relevant debates today. And this sounds like it became a real-world classroom for her in strategy, solidarity, allyship.
Absolutely. Her white co-head, for instance, showed incredible solidarity by attending everything with her, which really bolstered their advocacy efforts.
That's great allyship.
And Jamie also learned to use her own privilege. She mentions not being on scholarship, which maybe gave her a bit more freedom to speak out when other students might have rightly feared repercussions from the school.
That's smart, using your position strategically.
And there was this pivotal moment she describes involving Jewish and queer students who were syncing their own affinity groups within the school.
What happened?
Well, the initial suggestion from the administration was for just one single overarching diversity club. Lump everyone together.
Oh, I can see where this is going. And Jamia and her co-head pushed back.
They pushed back hard.
Yes.
They argued passionately for a coalition of distinct affinity groups.
Why was that distinction so important?
Their view was that each community needed its own space to work on its collective interests, to support each other properly. They saw this real risk that a single general diversity group could actually erase specific identities and the unique challenges each group faced.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dilution, almost.
Exactly. She acknowledges it was controversial, echoes debates we still hear today, right? But she felt it was necessary to address the real issues, what she calls the illusion of race, and how it shapes systems and experiences.
What an incredible set of lessons to learn as a teenager. So, armed with those lessons from her youth, her high school activism, Jamiria then embarks on this career path through some pretty significant progressive organizations, like the Women's Media Center.
Right, which eventually led her to her current role as director of the feminist press at CUNY, which, by the way, was celebrating its 50th anniversary around the time of this interview.
Wow, 50 years.
So she frames this as her core, Her full-time work in advocacy, publishing, feminism.
But she makes it really clear that her writing life isn't just some side gig. It's a significant parallel path.
Absolutely. And there's this genuinely touching story about her very first book.
Oh, yeah, the one she wrote when she was just 5 years old.
Exactly. Written at 5, tied up with ribbons. Her mother saved it all those years and gave it back to her as a Christmas gift when Jania published her first officially published children's book decades later.
Oh, that's just beautiful. Goosebumps.
Right. Her mother, she says, always knew she would be a writer. It was just in her.
And now, finding her mother's inscriptions in books, little notes like, think, ponder, reflect, right? That's a real comfort for her now, especially after her passing.
Yeah, you can feel that connection. Her transition into writing books for a wider audience, it really kicked off when a publisher approached her for Young, Gifted, and Black.
Oh, okay, tell us about that.
Well, the idea was to spotlight Black luminaries from around the globe, but specifically looking at how their youth, their early years, shaped their later greatness.
Oh, concept.
And Jamia felt this deep personal connection to it, partly through the artist Andrea Pippins, who she knew, but also because of her own history with Nina Simone. Nina Simone was actually the focus of Jamia's NYU thesis, and her mother had actually met Nina years ago. So Nina was central to the book's inspiration.
Wow, full circle.
Totally. And that first book basically opened the door to many more.
And she expresses such a clear passion for writing specifically for young people.
Oh, absolutely. Her goal, she says, is to reach their beginner's mind.
Beginner's mind.
Yeah, that place of just pure curiosity, questioning, exploration. She's very clear it's not about indoctrination.
Right.
She talks about how she found herself in books as a young person and how important it is to provide that same kind of nourishment, that space for discovery for kids today.
That's lovely. She sees her books, especially titles like Step Into Your Power, as more than just stories, right? She calls them social objects.
Yes, social objects. I love that term.
What does she mean by that?
Basically, they serve as conversation starters. She loves hearing how adults actually use the prompts and activities in the books themselves.
Oh, interesting. Not just for the kids.
Exactly. Noting that these fundamental human experiences, these concepts, they really resonate across generations. And seeing kids and parents engaging with the books together, discussing these ideas, that's clearly incredibly meaningful for her.
That's a wonderful way to think about their impact. And she shares this really insightful, maybe slightly cheeky perspective. You know, you're onto something when it ticks people off.
Oh, this is a great point from the source material. She remembers seeing her book, ABCs of AOC, referring to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, listed in some article about the supposed danger of progressive children's books.
Danger! Really?
Yeah, the criticism was basically that it might make young people too liberal and open-minded. Heaven forbid.
Right. And her take on that is just fantastic.
It really is. She feels that the very things the critics were afraid of were precisely what made the book strong.
How so?
They were empowering kids to ask questions, to think critically for themselves. And that reaction, she says, it didn't deter her one bit. If anything, it just fueled her desire to write even more children's books.
That speaks volumes about her conviction, doesn't it? Using criticism as fuel.
Totally.
So there's this interesting dynamic Jamia manages, right? Holding down this demanding full-time leadership role in advocacy and publishing.
Yeah, at the Feminist Press.
While also cultivating this really vibrant, thriving writing career alongside it. How does she balance that?
Well, she has a pretty clear perspective on it. She feels that because she doesn't depend on her art for survival, like maybe a full-time freelancer might have to.
Right. The financial pressure isn't the same.
Exactly. It gives her the freedom to be more discerning about the writing projects she takes on. And she says it's vital for her to always have a thing that's mine.
A thing that's hers.
Yeah. And she connects this back to her mother's belief in the perpetual side hustle. Always having a plan A, B, and C.
Makes a lot of sense. It's about building resilience, having multiple avenues for expression, for contribution.
Exactly. And she explains how having that writing income actually shifted her relationship to, job security fears in her institutional roles.
How so?
It allowed her to focus less on just, keeping the job and more on the marrow of the contribution, as she puts it, on continuous learning. Knowing her identity as a writer was secure, regardless of what happened with the day job.
That's a really freeing perspective. She also brings up this concept of living an undivided life, which she got from a workshop with Parker Palmer. It sounds like she's actively working towards a greater fluidity between her work and her life. using tools like community, reflection.
Yes, she even talks about making a conscious decision to move jobs after realizing she felt too divided in her previous role. She wasn't bringing her whole self.
Ah, okay.
And now she feels this deep alignment between her writing and her job at the feminist press. They mutually support each other, and they support the people she works with and for. It all feeds into the same mission, basically.
And her desire, it seems, is for everyone to feel they can pursue multiple passions. It's not an either-or.
Totally. She shares her own experience of realizing she could add another thing to her plate and, as she puts it, she didn't die.
Huh, yeah.
She views it more as a series of experiments, trying things out.
That's a great way to look at it. Less about finding a single rigid path and more about ongoing exploration.
Exactly. Less pressure that way.
It really feels like her whole journey and this balance she's striving for can be summed up by that idea she mentioned earlier, being guided by spirit but grounded in action.
That captures it perfectly, I think. Spirit and action working together.
What an incredible journey, and just what a wealth of insights Jamia shares with us through this conversation, from those deep family roots, those formative global moves,
Yeah.
to learning how to navigate complexity, finding her voice, building bridges between different worlds.
And then masterfully pursuing these parallel passions in advocacy and writing. It's really something.
And her definition of what it means to live a good life, so simple yet so profound. Be true.
Be true.
Right.
It really resonates, doesn't it? What's fascinating here, I think, is how every twist and turn in her journey, moving through different cultures, facing different challenges, seemed to teach her not to look for easy answers, not to settle for those simple binaries, but instead to embrace nuance, to really understand complexity, all while staying fiercely true to her core values. And this, well, it raises an important question for you listening as you reflect on her story. In what areas of your own life might seeking nuance, rather than demanding that simple yes or no answer, actually help you find a more authentic, maybe a more effective path forward?
Exactly. It's about holding those seemingly opposing ideas she embodies so well, like rootedness and freedom, or urgency and spaciousness, and figuring out your own unique way through them. It reminds me of her books for young people. Sometimes the most profound insights, the biggest shifts, they come from daring to explore, from asking those essential questions, even the really simple ones.
So we'll leave you with that thought. How can you embrace nuance and continue to ask the essential questions in your own journey?